Before 1950, almost every farmhouse in North America had a room that never needed electricity. No compressor, no refrigerant, no monthly bill. It kept food fresh for 6 to 8 months, longer than your refrigerator does today. Then, one appliance replaced it, and in a single generation, we forgot it existed. The average American refrigerator costs $150 to $200 a year just to run, every year for the rest of your life. A root cellar costs $0 a year to operate. Zero, because it runs on the temperature of the ground. Potatoes stored in a proper root cellar last 5 to 8 months. In a refrigerator, 3 to 5 weeks. That is not a small difference. That is a completely different food system. In this video, what a root cellar actually is, the exact science behind why it outperforms refrigeration, who used it and why it vanished, the 4 types anyone can build, including one that costs less than $50, and the real numbers behind 30 years of refrigerator builds. Stay until the cost comparison at minute 13. That number will change how you think about your kitchen. A root cellar is not a basement. It is not a pantry. It is a precisely controlled environment that uses the thermal mass of the Earth to maintain a stable temperature between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 to 4 degrees Celsius, year-round, without any mechanical system. At a depth of 5 to 10 feet, the ground temperature in most temperate climates stays between 45 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit, regardless of what happens above. -20 in January, 95 in August. Underground, almost unchanged. This is not folk wisdom. This is thermodynamics. The Earth has enormous thermal mass. It absorbs heat slowly and releases it slowly. Your refrigerator compressor fights against ambient temperature all day, every day. A root cellar simply sits inside the part of the Earth that is already cold. 4 conditions. All 4 are required. Miss any one of them and your food rots faster than it would in a paper bag. Temperature, 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Below that, food freezes and cellular structure breaks down. Above that, microbial activity accelerates. Humidity, 85 to 95%. Modern refrigerators run at 30 to 50%. At that level, root vegetables lose water content, go limp, and deteriorate. A root cellar keeps them turgid, cellular pressure intact for months. Ventilation. Air must move, but not freely. Stagnant air breeds mold. Too much airflow destroys humidity. 2 vents, 1 low for intake, 1 high for exhaust. Darkness. Most root vegetables begin sprouting when exposed to light. A root cellar keeps them in metabolic stasis. Potatoes, 5 to 8 months. Carrots, 4 to 6 months. Beets, 3 to 5 months. Turnips and parsnips, 4 to 6 months. Winter squash, 3 to 6 months. Cabbage, 3 to 4 months, stored separately because of ethylene gas. Apples, 3 to 5 months, also stored separately. Hard cheese, 3 to 6 months. Salt-cured meat, 6 to 12 months. That is a full winter's food supply without a single kilowatt-hour of electricity. A root cellar does not replace a freezer. It does not handle tropical fruits, tomatoes, or cucumbers, and it does not work in climates where the ground freezes solid at shallow depth. It is one tool, but it is the specific tool that the refrigeration industry convinced you to throw away. Archaeological evidence places underground food storage at over 40,000 years in indigenous Australian cultures. Purpose-built underground cellars with stone walls and barrel-vaulted ceilings appear in the European archaeological record from the 11th and 12th centuries. By the 13th century, the design had been refined through 3 centuries of trial and error across multiple climates. Stone walls, arched ceilings, earthen floors for natural humidity. This was not primitive technology. This was optimized technology. By the 17th and 18th centuries, nearly every farmstead in New England had a root cellar, not as a luxury, as infrastructure, as essential as the well and the barn. A family with a proper root cellar could survive winter without access to a market. A family without one could not. This was food independence, not as ideology, as practical fact. 1913, the first commercial electric refrigerator. 1950s, refrigerators in 50% of American homes. 1960s, supermarket chains replace home growing. By 1970, the knowledge of how to build a root cellar had largely disappeared from one generation to the next. Not because refrigerators preserved food better, because refrigerators could be manufactured, branded, sold, and serviced. A root cellar is a hole in the ground. You cannot put a brand name on a hole in the ground. The ground temperature has not changed. The physics has not changed. Only the market changed. Everything that rots food is a living organism. Living organisms need energy and a certain temperature range to metabolize. The relationship between temperature and microbial growth rate is not linear, it's exponential. At 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the growth rate of most spoilage bacteria is reduced by 50 to 90% compared to room temperature. At 32 degrees, it drops to near zero. This is why cold storage works. This is exactly why a root cellar works. The critical difference from a refrigerator: a root cellar temperature is passively stable. A refrigerator cycles on and off, creating temperature fluctuations of 3 to 5 degrees, enough to accelerate spoilage at the margins. A carrot is approximately 88% water. When it dries out, the cellular walls lose pressure, enzymatic activity accelerates, and nutritional degradation follows. This process is called wilting. It is the primary reason vegetables go soft in a refrigerator. Modern refrigerators run at 30 to 50% relative humidity. A root cellar at 85 to 95% keeps cellular water pressure intact. The carrot doesn't know it has been harvested. It remains in a state close to being in the ground. Humidity accounts for most of the difference in storage duration between a root cellar and a refrigerator. The cold is important. The moisture is what makes the cold effective. Certain fruits, most significantly apples and pears, emit ethylene gas as a natural ripening hormone. Ethylene accelerates the deterioration of almost everything stored near them. Apples stored near potatoes will sprout and deteriorate in weeks. Stored separately, they last months. The people who designed the first root cellars didn't know about ethylene. They knew that apples and potatoes should not be stored together. They observed the outcome over generations. The science caught up 300 years later. 5 criteria, side by side. Annual operating cost: root cellar, 0. Refrigerator, $150 to $200. Relative humidity: root cellar, 85 to 95%. Refrigerator, 30 to 50%. Temperature stability: root cellar, passively stable within 1 to 2 degrees. Refrigerator cycles 3 to 5 degrees around target. Potato storage: root cellar, 5 to 8 months. Refrigerator, 3 to 5 weeks. Power failure resilience: root cellar, unaffected. Refrigerator, food spoils within 4 hours. This is not nostalgia for a simpler time. This is a direct technical comparison. And on 4 out of 5 criteria, the older technology wins. The original design: dig a pit 6 to 10 feet deep. Build stone or concrete block walls. Pour or arch a roof with sufficient earth cover for thermal mass. Install a heavy insulated door. Add 2 vents. Line shelves with wood for air circulation. Cost and materials: $500 to $2,000. Build time: 1 to 2 weeks. Expected lifespan: 50 to 100 years. Maintenance: essentially 0 after construction. If you have a natural slope, even a gentle one, a hillside cellar is the most efficient design available. 3 of 4 walls are naturally insulated by earth. Drainage is natural because of the slope. The door should face north to minimize solar gain. Cost: $300 to $1,500. If you already have a basement, you already have most of a root cellar. The northeast corner contacts the coolest exterior walls and gets the least solar exposure. Build 2 interior walls of insulated cinder block. Add 2 vents through the foundation. Cost: $100 to $400. Build time: 1 weekend. You are not building a root cellar. You are converting space that already exists. The minimum viable root cellar: a large plastic barrel or metal drum, buried vertically with the lid just above grade. Insulate the lid, add a small vent. Cost: under $50. Build time: 2 to 3 hours. The capacity is small, enough for one family's root vegetable supply for a season, but the principle is identical. If you have no construction experience and no significant budget, this works. Large rural property, no existing structures, traditional in-ground or hillside. Property with a natural slope, hillside cellar, lowest cost, best passive drainage. Existing basement, basement root cellar. Easiest build, fastest payback. Small urban lot or no construction experience, buried container. Start here, prove the concept, scale later. The USDA National Center for Home Food Preservation publishes storage duration data. These are not estimates from homesteading forums. These are controlled measurements. Potatoes, refrigerator 3 to 5 weeks, root cellar 5 to 8 months. Carrots, refrigerator 4 to 6 weeks, root cellar 4 to 6 months. Beets, refrigerator 2 to 3 weeks, root cellar 3 to 5 months. Cabbage, refrigerator 1 to 2 weeks, root cellar 3 to 4 months. Across every root vegetable, the storage ratio is approximately 8 to 1 in favor of the root cellar. Not 2 to 1, 8 to 1. A refrigerator draws 400 to 600 kilowatt hours per year. At the current U.S. average electricity rate, that is $150 to $200 annually. Over 30 years, $4,500 to $6,000 just to run the appliance, before the cost of the appliance itself, before replacement, before repairs. A basement root cellar costs $100 to $400 to build. After that, $0 per year. The crossover point is between year 2 and year 3. A traditional in-ground root cellar at $2,000 build cost crosses break-even around year 10 and then runs for the next 90 years for free. The refrigerator industry does not advertise the 30-year total cost of ownership. There's an obvious reason for that. During the Great Depression, agricultural economists documented a measurable difference in food security between households with root cellars and those without. The distinction was not wealth. Families of identical income showed dramatically different food stability. This is the real value of a root cellar, not aesthetics, not self-sufficiency as a hobby, independence from a supply chain that can and does fail. 3 real limitations, not reasons to avoid it, reasons to build it correctly. First, it requires space. A buried container works in a small urban yard. A full in-ground cellar needs land. Second, if built incorrectly, wrong humidity, no ventilation, wrong temperature zone, food spoils faster than in a refrigerator. The physics is precise. The 4 conditions are not optional. Third, it does not replace a freezer for long-term meat preservation. For that, pemmican, covered in the previous video, or a dedicated freezer is the answer. At 5 feet below ground, the temperature of the Earth in temperate climates is between 45 degrees Fahrenheit and 55 degrees Fahrenheit. This was true in 1200 AD. It is true today, and it will be true when your children are adults. This is not a technology that needs upgrading. It is not a technology that can become obsolete. It is thermodynamics. The ground is cold. Things stored in cold environments last longer. No patent required. The root cellar did not lose to the refrigerator in a performance competition. On most measurable criteria, the root cellar wins. It lost a market competition. A refrigerator can be manufactured, distributed, serviced, replaced, and upgraded. A root cellar is a one-time construction. That is not a conspiracy. That is how markets work. But knowing why something disappeared is different from agreeing it should stay gone. A functional root cellar can be built in 2 hours for under $50. A plastic barrel, a shovel, and an afternoon. The only reason most people don't have one is that they were never taught it existed. This video is the reason you now have no excuse. 3,000 years of optimized food storage, functional in every climate that supports root vegetable agriculture. 0 operating cost, 8 to 1 storage advantage over refrigeration. The refrigerator replaced it not because it was better at preserving food, because it was better at generating revenue. Next video, how to build a basement root cellar step by step, location, humidity control, ventilation, full materials list. Under $200, 1 weekend. If this changed how you think about food storage, or if you already have a root cellar, tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe so you don't miss the build guide.